In this episode of This Week in Photo, we talk about fire, Flickr, and fanning the flames of privacy. And welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson, here with me to discuss a few of the more interesting stories that photographers are facing this week. I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Derek Story from The Digital Story, and Mr. Don Komarechka from donkomarechkaphotography.com.ca. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, doing great.
All right, just inside baseball, you know, I like to be transparent. So we've been trying to get this show recorded. We started at the top of the hour. It's now 6:32, 30 minutes, and Hangouts failed us this time. Hangouts completely failed. Couldn't start the Hangout. When we did get one started, it wouldn't record. But now we're in the show using Skype.
And Skype was failing me.
Skype was failing too. There was some kind of wall built between our two countries, so we couldn't.
You know what? I'm going to blame it on Windows 10. I did an upgrade recently to Windows 10, and I've had a couple of glitches, and I think this might be one of them that's just crept up on me for the first time.
Okay. Well, regardless, we are now recording the show, episode numbers 456, and there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Before we dive in, Derek's Story, I missed the last time you were on the show. I was out and about somewhere. Where was I? In Vegas or somewhere traveling, but you managed to get on the show without me. How did that happen?
I asked for, when's the next time you're going to be gone, and so book that slot for me so I could, run the show myself.
I love it. You're like, I want to be on a substantive show, not one of those fluffy shows.
Yeah. No, Bruce ran that show, I think, right?
Yeah, Bruce is awesome, isn't he?
Yeah, he did a great job. He did a great job. Yeah.
For those who don't know, Bruce Clark is the host of TWiP Wedding, so check it out if you're a wedding shooter. So,
yeah, he got a few plugs in too. He's all right.
Of course he did. One long infomercial for TWiP Weddings, right?
I don't want to talk about weddings.
So what's been going on, Derek? Have you been traveling? I know you it's hard to keep you in California.
All I did was I did a stint in Austin, and that was a blast. First time to Austin, had a great time there. But I've been in the studio the last 2 months, really, recording Capture One Pro for Linda, and then I wrote a book on photos for OS 10 for Rocky Nook, and now I'm recording a Flickr title for Linda. And so one of our topics today is right up my alley here.
Perfect. I saw that in the notes. That's great. It's good to have you on. There's a lot. I mean, we got to catch up on a lot of stuff on and offline. It's good to have you on the show and hear your voice again. Also, sitting next to you, Don Komarechka. What's going on? Our newlywed. I guess you're not a newlywed technically anymore, are you?
No, it's been about a year and a half now.
Oh,
but
so it's
but
sticky
we have, and I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before. There's a baby on the way, so due in June, and her name will be Danica, and we're very excited for that. So that's going to be a wonderful kind of chaos.
Wait, is that wishful thinking?
Awesome name.
Is that wishful thinking that it's a girl, or have you peeked under the covers?
No, we know it's a girl.
Okay.
The ultrasounds have told us so.
Gotcha.
So it's so we're really excited for that. And I've just been digging out from another kind of chaos because the winter months are usually the craziest for me. And I'm looking at about 500 emails in my inbox that I'm tackling right now. Yeah. And I'm hoping, I'm running Operation Inbox Zero over the next couple of days to just hammer through it all.
Dude,
so
it's so hard. It's so hard.
I know.
Because it's like it's a treadmill. You're trying to empty the
well,
bucket
you
with a
write an
hose
email
running into
and
the
you
bucket.
expect it to be done with, but then the nerve of people to respond to the emails you write them.
I've learned to be very succinct in my email and not pose them so that they can trigger more emails in the opposite direction.
You are a smarter man than I, sir.
So don't ask any questions. Just give definitive rhetorical statements.
And then there's the quick responders, right? You think you finally got it off your desk, and then it's like right back 2 minutes later. You go, wait, man, there's a rule. It has to sit in your inbox for at least a day before you respond.
I know.
You can't quick respond me.
I know.
Like
well, then
that.
the other side of it is, I don't know what it is. There's like this wave of people that are rebelling against text messaging and emailing, and people are starting to call more. Which is even worse. Oh. It's even worse. I'm like, can you just email? Oh, wait a minute.
No, I don't. Really, I don't want to talk.
We can't win. All right, guys, enough depressing talk. Let's dive into the stories. One of the big stories this week is about a landmark shipwreck in California being burnt out for an Instagram photo. Let me read Bruce's lead in here. He wrote, a landmark shipwreck in California that has been popular with photographers for many years was partially consumed in a fire after someone started spinning hot wire wool, steel wool, behind the wreck for the purpose of creating a photograph. So this was at Point Reyes. You know the technique where you attach some steel wool, put some accelerant on it, light it, spin it, and basically paint with light with the shutter open on a dark scene. Somebody did that on wood. and
on dry wood that has been sitting there for a very long time with no protection.
AKA kindling. And set it on fire for an Instagram photo, which you then pulled down. There's another story before we dive into the punditry about this, but there's another story. So landowners in Iceland have closed down the road leading to a popular U.S. Navy, the Douglas Dakota DC-3 plane wreck that sat abandoned on the black sands of a beach that I cannot pronounce, Soldaheimender. I can't pronounce that name.
Don't try.
I'm not going to try. I got to ask Rebecca Goodliffe to pronounce that for us. But on a beach in South Iceland. So they shut it down due to unacceptable visitor behavior. Again, photographers going out there doing stuff for the sake of the photo and destroying natural landmarks. Derek Story, have you been to the Point Reyes, the shipwreck?
Oh my God. I mean, this is like, I've been going there for years. This is like one of my favorite things. I take kids there, you know, I mean,
it's kids there.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing. So I haven't seen it since they scorched it.
Yeah.
But, and then on top of this, I have a Point Reyes workshop in August, first time that we're going to be there. And I have this like fantastic ranch house. I mean, we've got this whole, and there's lots of wonderful places there, but the ship is like one of my sentimental favorite places to go because, you know, I've like taken my kids there and all that. And it's cool. It's cool. You put a wide angle lens on this thing and it's just, you know, really neat. So I'm totally bummed about this. And I'm already not a huge fan of spinning anyway.
Yeah.
But, you know, the one thing I want to say is that I love Instagram. I absolutely love Instagram. But the one thing that I have seen, a trend I have seen lately, is that people doing stupid things for a great Instagram photo, you know, whether it's train tracks or falling off buildings or setting things on fire or, you know, whatever. And I just would really like us to go back to the rule of, you know, do no harm, you know, as photographers, because we already have a bad name.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I really just want us to be, you know, held in a little higher esteem than right now it feels like we are.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But you know, there's smart people and not so smart people, and unfortunately, the latter of the category probably outnumber the former of the category. And when you layer in that the idea of getting attention online, it's a recipe for disaster. Then you start overlaying that with, say, drones.
Oh my God, I know.
It gets real, you know, idiocracy plus aircraft.
Oh God.
So, Don, what do you think? You saw this story. I mean, Derek hit it right on the head. I mean, we're in this. We've been talking on TWiP for the better part of half a decade about photographers' rights and how we should be able to take a picture and do whatever we want, and then we get these minions going out there doing stupid crap like this, setting us back 5 steps. What do you think about this?
True, and you know, photographers' rights are something that are very undervalued these days. Now, from a legal perspective, and I'm not advocating anything, but I do want to say that if you destroy something that's already an abandoned wreck, I mean, there's no culpability there. I mean, you're not going to be walked off in handcuffs by police because you've destroyed something that was already destroyed, you know. And so from that perspective, there's very little that can be done about this particular instance, and it's very sad.
Yeah.
You know, the original photographer that took the picture pulled it down off Instagram shortly after there was a bit of an outrage because of the fire. But then later, I think, made a comment saying that, I was just walking by photographing what other people were doing. Yeah, right. I don't believe that for a minute. And don't try to cover that up just apologize profusely or say nothing at all at that
That's like
point.
returning to the scene of the crime, saying, "Yeah, I saw the whole thing go down."
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking I've never been there, but I know that a lot of these locations are wonderful, photographically pleasing places for people to try and ply their craft. Whether it's trying to do some stars around that ship, or the perfect sunset, or posing a model in front of it. All of these are non-destructive. Now, I admit that in certain cases in photography, I manipulate a landscape. I'll pick a flower and put it in a different place. I'll move a branch that's in the way of a perfect waterfall shot because I can just pick it up and move it over there.
Sure.
But I don't consider those things to be destructive to the environment that I'm working in.
Right. And you're creating art too. You're not creating photojournalism. You're creating an artistic interpretation of that scene. So you're free to do whatever you want to those pixels.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I fully agree that my photography is art and it shouldn't be construed as photojournalism. That's not what I am. And I think that that's true of most photographers. Now, I have spun steel wool on a number of occasions. One of them, we were in an abandoned building in the basement of it. And we were surrounded by concrete and metal and ice because it was really cold and just on the bridge of winter there. So there was no real risk of any kind of damage of any kind. But even still, we stuck around and we looked in every nook and cranny for a little while just to make sure that we were not causing any damage whatsoever. And so, if people just get their picture and then they move on and 10 minutes later, a fire breaks out. I mean, if you see the flames erupting, you can kind of stomp them out a little bit because you can kick that steel wool into the sand. These people probably left without any care and any sense of responsibility.
Without that classic, Boy Scout campfire etiquette, wet it down, bury it, and stomp on it, all that stuff. It's funny. This is a timely story because just last week was WPPI after the conference, or the Wedding and Portrait Photographers International Conference in Vegas. Just after the conference, my friend Craig Colvin and I we took 2 models and went out to Valley of Fire and did some shots out there. On the way out there, the model that was in the car with us was telling us that she herself, just a week before, was out there with another photographer who was spinning wool and set a bunch of trees on fire.
Oh my God.
So set a bunch of trees on fire. So I'm thinking, oh my God. She said she was actually fearing for her life because they were on fire, but they managed to put them out. And then he continued spinning the wool. So, all right. So we know that's stupid. Let's shift the conversation. Derek, I want to shift the conversation to people that want to, we're looking at this whole attention economy. It's an arms race to get more likes and plus ones and smiles and whatever else Facebook wants to throw at us online. What's a good way to do that? What's a good way for photographers that want to get more attention online to get more attention, aside from just creating good photos? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the part of it is, being creative. And so, spinning is creative. It's beautiful when it's done right and all that. So, I mean, I'm all for that. I'm all for, trying to separate yourself from, what other people are doing and thinking about, wow, what if we did this? Mm-hmm. How would we do that? How would we plan that out? How do we make that happen? So, I mean, I love that actually. And so I'm all for that. Just the part, and I don't want to sound like the old guy on the show or anything, but, just be responsible for Pete's sake.
And stay off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. No, but, just do like you were talking about, there's a whole second half to it, make sure that, when you leave the scene that everything is, safe and cool and don't get anyone hurt for God's sakes. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of risky behavior just in terms of people doing stuff to hurt either the subject or the photographer, his or herself. So, I love the creative part. I love taking risks, but I like it stuntman style, which is calculated risks that you figure out, down to the very detail, and then you have a plan and you execute it.
That's a brilliant way to put it, because when you look at these stunts in the movies with these fireballs and explosions and cars flipping over, then you look at the behind the scenes, like on iTunes or whatever, and you see that they've taken sometimes weeks of preparation and planning in advance for like a 3-second effect. That
And you
looks
better
spectacular.
believe that there's a lot of fire extinguishers around, right? So if you're planning on spinning steel wool around kindling, have a fire extinguisher handy. That would be a smart preparation for you.
See, now you're just talking crazy, Don. Come on.
Yeah. But I don't want to discourage the creative part of it. I love that part of it. I mean, that's cool. It's just it's the other half of the equation.
Yeah, I think just like they have the "Please drink responsibly" tagline, we need "Please shoot responsibly." That's it.
Yeah,
Just shoot responsibly, and like you have some sense. Don Komareska, what about you? If photographers want to differentiate themselves and get to a multi-gazillion follower count like you have on G+, how do they do that?
Well, I mean, you have to be unique, like Derek said. You have to find your own creative niche, and you've got to exploit that to the best of your ability, so that no matter how obscure it is, you're the best at something, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's true of any art form. I've put my camera at risk a number of times. I mean, not myself, really, personally. I take that back. There's been a couple of times, but it's been mitigated, and like Derek said, it's the stuntman approach. But like I've thrown my camera up in the air to take a picture, on a timer just to see what image it ends up with, and then I catch it. Hopefully I catch it. Yeah. I've put my camera on a tripod and pushed it over the edge of a tower that I kind of broke into in Bulgaria, where
was that an admission of guilt that I just heard? Bulgarian police.
I don't know about that, but it's the abandoned former Communist Party headquarters of Bulgaria, which is, I've been there a number of times. It's fun, but there's a tower you can climb, and I put my camera out on the tripod, fishing it out like it's sort of a pole horizontally, and it was a travel tripod with a 1DX on there, so it's not really the proper scenario for that, and it's bending like crazy, and I'm like, okay, you gotta just hold on for the timer to reach its 10-second click, and then I pull you back in, and it turned out to be a fantastic shot. I was happy with it. Yeah. My camera could have tumbled to its death. Yeah. Nobody would have been hurt except for the camera there. So yes, there are risks that you can take in any creative endeavor, but just be smart about it. Make sure that you don't damage other people's property, that you don't damage the goodwill of other people or the health and safety of anybody around you, including yourself. Like I've laid down on an active rail bridge to take a photograph of a tiny little plant growing up out of it. But it was right next to a street where all the bells and whistles would be going off 10 minutes before a train comes by. So you have to just know your risks and be very, very safe about it. That is also technically trespassing, so I do apologize.
All these adventures you're describing, for some reason I had like James Bond theme music playing in my head while you were explaining these adventures. But you're absolutely right. You got to get out. You got to take risks, but like you got to shoot responsibly though. So when you were doing those, you strike me as the type of person that would make sure that you weren't going to put anybody in harm's way. It's a calculated risk. If you did lose that camera, you could probably replace it if you needed to, since it's part of your livelihood. So it was calculated. It wasn't spinning wool next to kindling and then saying you didn't do it, right?
Well, and that's the part that bugs me the most, that, at the end of it all, I mean, what do? You either own up to it or you disappear. You don't come back and say, oh no, I came across other people doing this with no proof or no images of anybody else. Yeah. But that photographer and their accomplice, by the way, because if somebody's taking the picture, it might also be from the distances that we're seeing there's somebody else that's spinning the wool. Yeah. It's a team effort and a team failure there.
Yeah. I don't know. All right, we beat that steel wool to death, so it's great. But on a closing point with that, I've wanted to try that. I haven't done that yet. The whole flaming steel wool thing. I've seen tutorials on how to do it, but one of the reasons I haven't done it is, where do you do it? I've seen it done a million times on the beach. That seems like the best place to do it, on the beach. And my thought was, this guy at Point Reyes probably thought that too, and then he said, "Oh, look at that shipwreck over there." That would be awesome. And, truth be told, I probably would have done the same thing. If I was out there and I saw that, I probably would have tried to spin near it. I probably wouldn't have set it on fire. But, I understand the draw of, okay, there's a shot that may not have been done before. Let's try and get that.
And there, there's a group of people around here. A friend of mine, Brian Weiss, who runs the Day Tripper photo group. He takes out a bunch of people like once or twice a year onto like a frozen lake and does this. And so you got a bunch of photographers. Some are spinning, some are taking pictures. It's a great learning experience. It's a lot of fun, and it's safe. You don't have to put people in harm's way to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, there you go. Frozen lake. Very hard to set something on fire out there. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to find out about Flickr's new auto-uploading feature. And if you're not a pro user, you're about to lose that functionality. All right, guys, we are back. This next story is about Flickr and their auto-uploader. It turns out Flickr is flicking the switch and making it pro-only. You see what I did there, Don Kamarechka? See that? Thank you. I'm here all week. All right, our resident Flickr expert, Mr. Derek Story, is on the show. Like you said in the beginning, Derek, you are recording a tutorial for lynda.com right now on Flickr. Before you dive into this feature and to Flickr, I'm curious. I still have a Flickr account, and This Week in Photo has a giant following on Flickr, but I very rarely go over there. Like, my attention is in other places right now. So I'm hoping that you can tell me why I should re-examine Flickr, especially with all this craziness with Melissa Meyer and all the uncertainty that's happening over there. Should I even give Flickr a second look?
I think so. The funny thing about Flickr is while, all these other things have been happening, they've been quietly making it better. And I think one of the big things they did that people didn't realize happened is that when they did the 1 terabyte storage, they brought in the camera roll. So, it used to be, you just send things to your photo stream and then you had to do stuff. Now you can just flood things into your camera roll from any place that you want. And they've added a whole bunch of features that I don't think people realize are in the camera roll, such as, you can easily turn things on public or private. You can do group tagging. You don't have to go to organizer anymore. You can do, batch description and titles. You can do all sorts of stuff that's really fast and really easy. So you literally can just, dump everything in Flickr and then just go in there and just move this over to your photo stream, move that. Cool. So that's the one half. The other half is there are still a boatload of people on Flickr that are really, really, really good photographers. I mean, inspiring photographers. And that community, for all the hits that it's taken, continues just to publish fantastic imagery. And I tell you, it's still the place that I go when I just say, I want to look at some great pictures. I go to explore and just marvel at how good, the photography community is these days. Yeah. So I think it's a happening place. I really do. And, the press, the Wired piece about Flickr Uploader is the one that comes to mind. They love jumping all over this stuff. Yeah,
that's what they do. I mean, that makes like some other salacious, bombastic individuals in the press. That's how you get news. But looking at this, how we get to this point, like at the end of the year, it happens for me at home where I clean out my garage, I go through my closet, and if I haven't worn something in a year or so, I donate it. It's like this shedding process for me, and I'm starting to feel that with my online presences now. In fact, I'm thinking I want to start retracting back my stuff from all these different services and have it in one place. Like if you want to see my stuff, go there, because I've got the Zenfolio account. I've got the Smug Mug. I've got 500px. I've got Flickr. There's stuff on Facebook. Dropbox automatically uploads. There's stuff everywhere. So I'm thinking I want to pull everything back. And if I do that, where should my stuff live? So should it live on Flickr or should it live somewhere else?
Well, the thing that I've been advocating is that think about, we have different persona online. And for instance, my Instagram persona is much different than my Flickr persona. My Instagram is like my daily life in action, So Flickr, I do dump a whole bunch of stuff into camera roll, but I try to move over stuff that's curated a bit more. I think if people want to say, hey, I want to see what you're up to, I point them to my Flickr gallery because it's been more selected. So I think, and then SmugMug I use for clients, so what I do is I just wanted to figure out how to use each of them and try not to have each of them do the same thing. Yeah. So, Flickr does this, Instagram does this, SmugMug does that. So that's the way I've approached it.
Okay. So you're telling me that my strategy of consolidating my presences is flawed. Is that what you're saying?
I don't. Yes, I am saying that.
Thank you. Why you just say that, Derek? Come on.
I was trying to think of a nicer way than there isn't.
You're so political. You're so political. Don Komarechka, what about you? You seen this Flickr? Are you active on Flickr?
Yeah. Well, I mean, through the winter months when I'm doing my snowflake project, that I post that in 6 different social media venues, and one of them is Flickr. And it kind of bothers me to think that they're removing features for non-pros rather than adding features for the pro photographers out there, because and I'm not really sure what they could add. I mean, I'm not within their development cycle and what they're looking at, but they could add some really fun functionality to their geotagging module. Or Derek, you might know, can you make a group of groups so that if I upload an image that's very similar to another one, can I submit it to the same series of groups?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah.
Because if it's possible, I haven't figured out how. And if it's not possible, then give that as a feature to the people that have a pro account like myself. There are things that you can add rather than take things away to entice people to move over to that. And the fact that they're kind of pulling back instead of pushing forward, that's not a good sign for me. Now, I've got a good number of followers on Flickr, and those people are not following me on other social media platforms. It's also a good discovery system, like Derek said, explore. If one of your images gets featured in there, and it can happen randomly, it's sort of a semi-curated system there, then you'll get many thousands of viewers admiring your work, and you'll gain an additional following. And so it's a good way to develop organic growth. Put that into the mix, it's a valuable thing, but I wouldn't use that as my exclusive place to be putting things online.
Yeah. Maybe that's the answer. In this era, there is no exclusive place. Like Derek, like what you're saying, it's different tools for different jobs. Like Instagram is a running kind of chronology of your life from day to day, if that's the way you choose to use it. Flickr is for more substantive work. 500px is where you go to be embarrassed by other people's work because it's so good.
It's a good point. It is
right.
good.
When you need some humble pie, they should call it 500 humble pie because that's where you go to take a big old helping of humble pie over there. It's just some fantastic work on there. And Flickr as well. You guys remember she was on the show a couple of years ago, Rebecca Goodliffe. I mentioned her earlier. She's from Iceland. And she came to fame on Flickr. She was a Flickr personality from doing those multiplicity shots that she did and grew this huge following on Flickr. I'm not sure if she's still maintaining it, but she grew this huge following, and by virtue of that following, got signed for several, quote, real-world ad campaigns and had a gallery show and all this other stuff, all on the back of Flickr. So, you don't want to discount Flickr. I'm genuinely worried. I still pay my Flickr Pro fee every year, and I'm keeping it going. But the news does worry me. Like what's going on. And looking at Flickr's financials, when I worked at Yahoo, it was a completely different world, right? Yahoo was the Death Star back then, and now it's like BB-8. Like what's going on?
So we should talk about Uploader specifically, leading up to it here.
Yeah.
So, Uploader is an interesting tool. I mean, it's ideally, it works best when you just got a bunch of stuff that you need to get into your camera roll. I mean, that's really what it does. It's like mainstreaming there. You don't even get to pick and choose, right? Here's
a hierarchy. Take it all and put it up there.
You point her to a folder or whatever, or to an iPhoto catalog, and it just goes, and off it goes. You can use it for, if you do off memory cards, if you're doing memory cards, Uploader will work for that, and you just swoosh them in there. So, it does what it does, but it is kind of a one-trick pony, in all honesty. I mean, I do almost everything through the web interface. I like, the web uploader just works, fine for me. And you can go through your particular applications too. If you want to go through Lightroom or whatever, you can go that way too. So, I don't understand quite the brouhaha on Uploader, because it isn't, to me, it isn't that valuable. It's okay, especially a one-shot thing. And what they did do, which I don't know how much reporting is, but they also discounted the pro account, to $35, right now, to say, hey, we know that this you're probably not thrilled about this. Here, let us do a little something to to make it easier.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm keeping.
But then again,
I'm gonna dive
how
in
many?
Again. I need someone to create a comprehensive tutorial on Flickr that I can dive into and get into the nooks and crannies. Derek, do you know of anybody that's making?
Yeah, I don't know. I know some hack that's trying.
That's trying. Can't has no kind of radio voice or anything, right?
Yeah, no.
Go ahead. Were you
No, I was going to ask Derek, based on the way you describe the Uploader, which is something that I've never used myself, but how many quote-unquote pros would be just taking everything that they have and shoveling it online for everyone to see without caring much of what goes into the mix?
Well, you don't see it. That's the thing. Okay, see, when it goes through Uploader, it goes through as private into your 1 terabyte camera roll. So that's the beauty of it. You just shove everything in there, but only you can see it. It's only yours. And then what you do is you decide, everything's in your camera roll, and if you want to move something over to your photo stream, you just click on it and change it from private to public.
Now, see, that could be valuable. That could be an immediate backup strategy for people.
Yeah, because you got 1 terabyte of storage.
That's scary though, because then we go back to that whole argument about putting all your eggs in a cloud basket. Right.
Yeah.
And then what happens when that cloud isn't there, or you don't have access to it for some reason? Derek, I know what you're going to say. You always want multiple backups, right?
I have one word for you, Frederick.
What?
Redundancy.
Wait, that's 3 words. Oh, 3 syllables. Okay.
3 syllables. Redundancy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
1 word.
Yeah. Keep it. And not redundancy in different clouds, right? Redundancy, cloud, terrestrial, and
I think that's a great point. I mean, for me, cloud is its own thing. I mean, I love iCloud too, right? And I like Photos for OS 10 and all that stuff. I love that my iPhone shots, they automatically go to Flickr and they automatically go to iCloud. Woof, like that. It's cool. But man does not live by cloud alone, right? So,
I love that.
So I got my hard drives and I've got everything else, and I think any photographer, has to have redundancy. That's the name.
Yeah. Well, we did a whole show on that. Yeah, redundancy. Like my friend Alex Lindsay says, if it's not in 3 places, it doesn't exist data-wise.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, data-wise, unless you're talking quantum physics, then it can be in 3 places. Don Komarechka is switching into science mode. All right, guys. Let's take a quick break from this. When we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that the FBI might be able to force us to turn on our phones, the cameras, to spy on us. How's that for salacious? All right, guys, we are back. This is another scary story, especially on the heels of the San Bernardino attack that happened in 2015 and all the controversy around Apple and privacy and unlocking the phones and them saying that it's a Pandora's box if they're forced to open it. So basically, part of the story is that Eddie Q, who's he's Apple's head of services, said someday they will want Apple to turn on a user's camera or microphone. We can't do that now, but what if we're forced to do that? Where will this stop? In a divorce case, immigration case, tax case, someday someone will be able to turn on that microphone or the camera. So this is scary, right? Because, Don, as you know, we all know that this has been possible for years. Hackers have been hacking into webcams on your computers and the microphones for years and being able to turn that on and look at you without you knowing. And in some cases, turn on the camera and not activate the light. right? So
Yeah, well,
you don't even know it's on, right?
It's funny because this goes back quite a while. I mean, I know that there was a big hullabaloo about it in 2013 when the FTC came down hard on TrendNet, a manufacturer of webcams, because they left the real-time streaming protocol port just open online, and that's, I think, port 554. So if anybody knows your IP address and just plugs in that port number, they will see a live stream of your webcam from wherever they happen to be in the world, and their cameras didn't have any passwords on them. So, anybody who didn't put the password or reset the password, which who does, the average person wouldn't, would be able to do that. And there's been some less than ethical search engines out there like Shodan that they catalog all of this stuff, and they let you search through the internet's IP address on port 554 if you want to, and find any responses to that, and then just go and dig into everybody's webcams. Now, this has been happening since then, and there's other manufacturers that have followed suit. But this is kind of interesting to think that the FBI is putting so much pressure on Apple to unlock their secrets because everything is so tightened up in there. I'm glad the FBI is complaining and moaning about this because it means they can't get in. If they're not complaining about something, it means they have a way around it. Yeah. So the fact that they're all up in arms over that, I'm happy. And hopefully Apple and any other tech companies that are supporting them can make a valiant fight and win that battle.
Yeah, and I'm sympathetic to both sides of the argument. I can see both sides. I personally fall on the side of I want my stuff to be as secure as possible, and I don't want a tech company compromising that so that a government can get in there should they feel like they want to justify themselves to getting in there, because we know governments are like ex-girlfriends. They can justify anything that they do at any time. So Derek's story, I'm not talking from personal experience here. I'm just saying. So, I mean, when you look at this, Derek, this worries me, right? So it worries me because if just switching this to the whole Apple, the Apple piece of them not acquiescing and unlocking that San Bernardino phone, if they were to acquiesce, my phone is now, who knows what the government can use the phone for, right? I mean, and on the heels of this, if you look at some of these science fiction movies or action adventure movies where the government can already turn on your phone, right, and listen in on conversations. Yeah. Many people probably already thought that the NSA was already listening to their conversations through their phones, and were surprised to hear that probably weren't, because Apple made it so secure that they couldn't do that stuff. Where do you fall on this? What's your standpoint?
Well, I mean, the starting point is that I don't want them to create a backdoor. I'm against backdoors, and I think you can't control backdoors. I just think it's impossible. So I'm against that. I think the FBI can get into that San Bernardino phone there, without Apple's help, by copying the nano chip and, many times over and running the code sequences, and finally they'll hit it. I mean, I sort of feel like they want Apple to do their work for them there, and, they should do their own work for that kind of thing. And then the idea that, our phones could be used to spy on us. I mean, we know technically it's possible now, but I mean, where it's actually implemented, I mean, that's going to change stuff. I mean, that's going to change a lot of stuff if that happens. Even if one case gets out, because people are suddenly going to look at their devices in a different way. Right now, we look at our devices, quite honestly, in a loving way. We go, this thing is really helping us.
My assistant.
It's my assistant. This thing is useful, and it's well designed, and I like it, and and I can do all sorts of stuff with it, and I take pictures. I mean, we really like it. It's our fun little, this is like a robot for us, right? And personal stuff. And that would all change. Yeah. And Apple knows that, and Samsung knows that, and everyone else knows that. And then we get into the whole thing. Then once that door's open, what happens to our companies, in this case Apple, in other countries? Then other countries are going to want that, and if they don't do that, are they going to get shut out of those countries? And I mean, talk about dominoes. I mean, there are so many dominoes going so many different directions here. Yeah. So I really want the FBI. The way I look at breaking into stuff like they want to do San Bernardino film. It's time. It's a matter of time versus convenience sort of thing. If they really want to get in there, it can be done without Apple's help, and I think that's the route they should take.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when this first hit the news, I was thinking, the government's complaint was, for whatever reason they should have access to whatever, if it's in the interest of public safety. Which I understand that argument, but then I think, okay, so does that mean that if I build a home that's impenetrable to anyone, you can't get in at all without me, or my authorization? Does that mean that home is now illegal because I could put stuff in there that the government can't get to? It's like
it's a slippery slope, right? I mean, it's where does this stuff begin and end? I think all of us are, want our government to be able to protect us, best that they can. I mean, that's one of the things I look to the government to do, and within the Constitution, I think that's the rule book for how all this has to play out.
Yeah.
And so,
I think that if a judge signs off on a warrant, right, and the warrant is to search your house, that's great. They have access to your home. They can go and do whatever the warrant says that they can do. If a judge were to say that you have to unlock your phone, well, then you know what? Unlock your phone for the whatever law enforcement agency, whether it be FBI or anything else, to take a look at what's in there. And I think that a judge should be able to issue a warrant for you to have no choice but to unlock your phone, or else you're behind bars. But can the phone be unlocked without you being there? That is the bigger question, especially when, of course, you might be dead in this particular example. And I don't think, like Derek said, that there should be a backdoor. You put a backdoor in. How many times has the U.S. government in the last year or two had their own databases hacked? And if you have one nation with that secret, all of the other nation states want it, and they will be seeking for it until they get it. And then before you know it, every single country in the world will have access to your phone. It's one thing if the FBI can turn on your camera, but how about China?
Yeah, or whomever else.
Yeah.
Well, there are so many contractors in this. I mean, Snowden was a contractor, right? There are so many contractors in the system. There are so many soft spots in the system that it is not a secure system, and I'm talking about the government security. So, and
that's an oxymoron, right?
Yeah, it is. And so I don't know what the bigger worry is, the government itself or other governments, or criminals, or, I mean, it just goes on and on. It just seems like, our best option right now is to figure something else out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And having been an ex-military person, i.e. government employee, I can see that side of it. And I look at this and I think of, our liberties, at least here in the United States. You guys in Canada, it's a totalitarian state up there. You can't. But here, we have this. We have this sense of security, and even on this show, I'm able to say negative things about the government if I want to. We were talking about politics before we started recording, and I have no fear of persecution for talking about that. Maybe after November I will, but right now I don't have fear of prosecution for talking negatively about the government. But so that's the government that we have, and I applaud that. But I think part of the fright comes when you have this overreach like this. And in the tech sector, this overreach is blatant, and I think everyone can see it. But you overlay that with the incessant and kind of deep-seated fear of evildoers and terrorists doing stuff, and the government, and the fact that the government has used that kind of fear in the past to write policy like this, right? So they're saying, hey, we need to get into everyone's phone, and we're going to use that San Bernardino case as the linchpin for this one case, but we're only going to do it this one time. Yeah. And like you're saying, Derek, once they're in that back door, all hell's going to break loose.
And once that door is open, it never closes, right?
You can't close
it's never going to be shut. Sure, that back door, if it gets out to other nation states and that one gets closed, well, then the FBI simply requests the back door be changed, and it's never going to be shut. Once that that ship has gone. It's never coming back to port. You will never see your privacy again.
And our phones will never be our loving personal assistants. I sleep with you next to my pillow, check Facebook in the morning devices. Again, they become a informant, right?
Well, of course, let's say you killed somebody and you're dreaming about it. If you're dreaming about a murder you committed the last week and you're talking about it in your sleep and they're listening on your phone, they'll put two and two together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's okay. So I don't do anything nefarious, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't want my privacy. Just because I don't do anything wrong doesn't mean I don't want people looking at me 24/7.
But that statement is a scary statement, though, because I would argue that suicide bombers don't think they're doing anything wrong, right? Because
this is true. Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing anything wrong is subjective to what your personal beliefs are. So
that's a good point. And the other thing I wanted to add, you know, we have in the U.S. we have a Supreme Court seat open right now, and I think that's a very important how that gets resolved, because I think the real challenge is to keep the Constitution alive and pertinent. You know, none of these things were around, you know, when the original Constitution was written. It's a great Constitution. It's an amazing Constitution, but, you know, we need to keep having some of our best legal minds interpret the Constitution to help us solve these sort of problems. And so, I mean, that, you know, we need good minds working on this. You know, these are important issues.
Yeah. Yeah, and meanwhile, while we're talking about all this, the technology continues to advance, right? So I'm looking at this and wondering, you know, Apple's working on the next phones, right? And probably the next phones. Is this case right now, is this going to affect how they design those phones? Are they going to double down and make it completely impenetrable, or are they going to, you know, go the opposite direction? I don't know. It's scary. It's scary, but fun. I love this technology. It never stops changing. Technology and politics and, you know, everything. All right, guys, we're going to jump into the Pics of the Week now. This is the segment where you guys get to recommend something to the TWiP Army, as long as it is somehow related to photography. Don Komrechka, I'm going to let you go first. What is your Pic of the Week?
Well, you know, I wanted to pick my Canon 1DX Mark II, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe the next time that I'm on, I will share a few words about that. You know, every time that I have to do a Pic of the Week, I look around my desk to see what it is that I've been playing with lately. And what I have a giant calcite crystal. I have a vial of invisible ink. I have a giant Fresnel lens. I have, what is this here? This is a cross-polarized birefringence filter that conveniently fits on what my Pic of the Week is, which is a gigantic flashlight. So this is one of my new toys. Yeah, it's big, isn't it?
Did you steal that from Thor? Like, what is it?
So this is the Nightcore Tiny Monster TM36, which it's a single LED bulb inside that, so it's just one LED.
Don't turn it on.
I'll fry my camera if I turn it on right now. But it's 1800 lumens from a single LED. And so that becomes an incredible light source when I'm doing macro photography. I use this for all of the freezing soap bubble photographs that I published over the wintertime, and I've got a few more to experiment with. And so this little colored filter here, I designed to fit right over the top of it so that I can project some crazy rainbow colors using this particular flashlight. And I can refocus them afterwards using this Fresnel lens. So using that exact setup, I can create a sort of a very crisp and clear, colorful radial pattern exactly where that freezing soap bubble was to create those colorful patterns. And I mean, this is $5. This is, well, I mean, almost free, just stuff I had lying around. But the flashlight itself costs around $400. So it's not exactly...
Is that the light that they have mounted on top of the Luxor in Vegas?
Yeah, they got a couple of them up there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's but no, and so like this is really, really bright, and like I could light up the back half of my office here if I get this shined properly back there. If you illuminate this in sunlight, it beats out the sun. It's a fun piece of gear to have around, using a very big rechargeable battery and what have you. But when I teach macro photography workshops, sometimes it's very valuable, not to say you have to go this far, but to have a really, really bright LED flashlight to help you learn. I always prefer to use a flash when I'm taking my images, but like continuous light versus instantaneous light, it's easier to learn and see exactly where the light is falling, especially if you're manipulating the light source, when you can kind of see it real time through the camera lens or through live view or whatever you have. So it's a great learning tool for my students. And they always ask, oh, where can I get one? It's like, are you sure you want one? Because, you could buy a pretty fun macro lens for around the same price. But it's a worthwhile tool. That battery lasts forever, even in the cold. So it's been fun to play with this winter.
Wow. So you have to adjust the size of your camera bag to take that around, though, right?
Yeah.
Or bring a separate bag with all lighting gear in there. That's crazy. How much did you say that cost?
$400 about.
$400, and it'll last you forever, right?
Yeah, that battery is, it's a big, heavy-duty lithium-ion rechargeable. I can't see me ever wearing that battery out.
Love it. Cool. All right, Don Komareska, thank you for that pick of the week.
Thanks.
All right.
Especially with an LED light. I mean, LED light, low usage even for that brightness, big battery. I mean, that's...
Yeah, that's going to go forever.
It's going to go forever.
Derek Story, you disappeared while Don Komareska was doing his pick of the week. I have a feeling you got something crazy over there. What is that?
No, I don't. It's a bag, but I like camera bags.
I do too.
I love camera bags. This one, I cannot let go of this one. I got it for review, and I just said no, I'm not giving it back.
All right, tell us, what is it?
So it's a Tenba, and it's the Cooper Slim 13, and what it is, it's a shoulder bag that takes a 13-inch laptop in the back, and then you open it up, your camera gear's on the inside, and then it's got like some really nice design elements, like this cool zipper on the front and everything. Yeah. And it's a canvas bag, and it's the peach waxed canvas, which I have no idea what that means, but it's very soft. It just feels really great, but it's slim. It's literally slim. So if you're a mirrorless shooter or a small DSLR shooter, you carry this bag and it feels like a real bag. It doesn't feel like, suddenly you have a growth coming off your hip or something. Yeah. And it looks great. This is one of the bags where, you usually don't get people complimenting your bag. Mm-hmm. This is one of the bags where you get people complimenting your bag. So it's a wonderful, I really have loved using it. And it's a Tenba Cooper Slim 13.
And how much?
Now,
$250.
Oh, okay. 250.
Now, I can't see the video right now, Derek, but would it fit my flashlight?
It would fit your flashlight. However, there wouldn't be room for much else. It could be your flashlight bag.
There you go.
That is awesome. You'd have to get two of them, Don Komareska. But it might fit the flashlight. It probably won't fit your camera that's on the way, though.
No, that's true. Although I did
big DSLRs.
No, I did forget to mention one point, though, is that the reason why I like the Tiny Monster series of flashlights is they have tripod mounts on them. This one, I needed to put a little spacer in for it to fit properly on my tripod mount. But that's an incredible resource when you're trying to have, even tabletop tripods for some of these things can be incredibly valuable.
Look at that.
Yep.
All right, yeah, I've got a ton of tripods. They keep growing. If you see behind me back there, I'm a fan of tripods. Only kind of camera mount that I'm not that much of a fan of is the selfie stick. So I can't bring myself to liking the selfie stick. Although my DJI Osmo back there is on technically a selfie stick because it extends out. It extends, but I'm not extending it. So, I don't feel like I need that shot. All right, guys, I do have a pick of the week this week.
All right.
My pick is from Perfectly Clear. I don't know if you can see that in this light. It's too glary. But they were handing these. They gave this. I was press at WPPI last week, so I got a free copy of this, but I got a demo of it. So Perfectly Clear is from a company called Athentech, ATHENTECH, Athentech. They're a Canadian company, Don Komareska. And what this app does is it gives you what I feel like should have been in Lightroom to begin with. So when you're doing portraits in different scenes, it basically does some really intelligent corrections to the image to give you a really good starting point. So for example, on skin. So if I take a photo of one of you guys, it's going instead of and I say, I want to brighten up the eyes. It automatically does facial detection. It will find the eyes and allow you to drag a slider to add more or less catch light into the eyes, right? So you can shrink the jawline down or fatten it up because it knows where the jaw is. Where it gets really interesting, and where I was like, okay, well, you can do that with a million other pieces of software. Where it got really interesting to me is that with the Lightroom plugin, you can sync those changes over thousands of images, and it will look at each one of those images and find the eyes and add the catch lights. Like, and for wedding photographers, I'm not a wedding shooter, but for wedding photographers and people that shoot bulk like that, that seems like magic, because now you don't have to like find the right one and then edit it and then find another one and edit it. You can start with a baseline of really good corrected images and then find your heroes and take those to perfection. So I thought it was really cool. Their tagline is perfect your photos with just one click, save countless hours of editing. So they've got that one, and then they've got another one that came out that I'm going to install as well, and this one's called Perfect Eyes, and it focuses literally on eyes. All it does is make eyes great. It brings out the color in the retina. So imagine a piece of software that all it does is make eyes look fantastic, and that's what they did. So I love that these companies are doing these, like they're taking these, their software and going really deep and doing a kick-ass job on just one thing, instead of, okay, we have this suite of products that do all these magical things and find the thing that works for you. These guys took one thing and they just did it better than anyone else. So kudos to the guys over at Athentech for Perfectly Clear. And also there's an app from these guys that I use as well on the phone. It's called Lucid. So Lucid is really cool. So it takes that technology that they have on the desktop and allows you to make your the photos that you captured with your iPhone that you're going to put online awesome. Like, it'll clear up skin, it brightens the eye, all that stuff. So you run it through this app, and which also acts as an extension, so you can launch it from the Photos app if you want, or on its own. You run it through this app, and automatically everybody looks better. Your selfies look like you're 10 years younger without looking airbrushed. It's fantastic. So
wow, yeah,
it's really good. It's one of the few apps that is not in the Photos folder on my phone. It actually is outside of the Photos folder. so that means a lot. Yeah. So
it's is editing extension too.
Yes.
Wow,
yep.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. Yeah, so definitely, check it out. I think
I'm going to check it out right now.
It's not free, and I'm happy that it's not free. I think it's like $4.99, $3.99 or something like that. But I want, for companies like this that are making really cool software, I want to fund them.
It's only
so that they can.
It's only $2.99.
$2.99. There you go.
$2.99. Yeah.
Yeah, I would grab it. I highly recommend it. I would go ahead and grab that thing because it's
a cup of coffee, as I like to say.
It's a cup of coffee, and suddenly people will think that you're an amazing photographer from your iPhone if you're not already.
Finally.
Derek, you can finally start charging.
They'll finally go, God, that guy takes good pictures.
I know. Derek, you have a really good camera.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're at the end of the show. We're at the top of the hour. Thanks for hanging in there about a half an hour longer for all the technical difficulties we had at the top of the show. But before we close off, I want to find out what's coming up for you guys. Derek Story, what's coming up for you next? Workshops, travel, buying new gear. What's happening?
Oh, well, all of that. I'm going to finish this Flickr title right now. And then I have the book for Photos for OS X coming out later in the spring. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to Point Reyes in August for a workshop. And I have a San Francisco workshop coming up in April, a street photography workshop. And I'm starting to incorporate film into those workshops, too.
So man, Doug Kay infected you, didn't he, with his film talk?
I got it. Well, I was a film shooter forever, like you were, and I took up the film challenge because someone was telling me, well, it'll make you better at digital photography. And I said, I'm getting so tired of hearing that, I'm going to start doing it. And then I got all infected again. You're right. Yeah. And so we're going to be shooting film and digital at all the workshops this year. So it's and I've got a great system working. I have three. Have San Francisco, and then Point Reyes, and then Fall Color in the Eastern Sierra, which I'm going to announce open up registration for that here pretty soon.
And you said you have a great system for that. What's the great system?
Well, in a nutshell, it is a combination of using iPhone to capture, the digital data like your location and the weather and all that kind of stuff. Using Day One, a journaling app, and then that you pair that up with the analog shots, and it solves the big problem with analog, which is you have these shots, but you don't really know what happened.
Right. No metadata.
And so I worked out this pretty cool system. I'm really having fun with it.
Analog meta. I love it.
I know. It's good stuff.
All right, man. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And thanks for coming on the show.
It's all digital story, digitalstory.com.
Thank you. I almost cut you off before you could get it.
Thedigitalstory.com.
Thedigitalstory.com. Got it. All right. Say the word. Thedigitalstory.com. Like the Donald. No, thedigitalstory.com.
Hey, so you want to hear something really fun? I haven't told anyone else this, and, so we'll tell TWiP right now. So I'm going to do an analog site too, and guess what URL was open? Theanalogstory.com. So I'm going to have the digital story and the analog story.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm so stoked about it.
That is fantastic.
I know. Is that going to be fun?
That? Did you have to pay for it, or was it?
No, it was just sitting there waiting for me to think of it.
Oh, I wish I had bought that so I could have sold it to you. God.
Yeah.
No, I would have gifted it to you. I would have met you for lunch and put it in a little box, and here you go, Derek.
So look for that later this spring, and I've been working on that site for a good few months now. It's going to be awesome.
You're always up to something. I love that.
I love that stuff.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure having you on. And Don Komarechka, what about you, man? Aside from increasing the Canadian population up there, what's happening? What's happening with you?
Well, it's funny. Derek had mentioned analog and film, and I just recently picked up a Linhof 617 extremely wide format, medium format camera. And so that thing is going to be so much fun to play with. I haven't shot anything through it yet, but it is my one of my spring goals to take that out, photograph some nature scenes, waterfalls, take it to downtown Toronto for some street photography, and just sort of enjoy that film experience as well. You only get 4 shots on a roll, though, so you kind of have to choose your images carefully, but that'll be a fun thing to play with. I've got some workshops coming up too. Early April rather. I've got some water droplet refraction workshops. These are like 3-hour intensive workshops for anybody that's in the area. I live about an hour north of Toronto, and so we kind of give all the tools. You get tools to take home with you, and you play around with all of the fundamentals to create an image inside of a water droplet through refraction, having the water droplet act like a lens. And so that's always a really fun thing to do.
I remember that one of the shots that you've done, that was was it like a yellow flower in there? I think I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a yellow flower, and you did another one. What was it? Was it a flag, a Canadian flag or something?
Yeah, well, I made an image before of maple leaves on a bed of snow in the shape of the Canadian flag. Right. And then I took a print of that photograph and put it in behind a water droplet, and then that becomes the image inside each of those water droplets. It becomes very meta as you start to explore these ideas. And I want to share an idea with you because I like to share ideas. If somebody beats me to it, then that's fine. But I had an idea over the winter, and I just recently published an image for this where I photographed a freezing soap bubble, but I made it using invisible ink like I have right here. And then I lit it exclusively with an ultraviolet flash, a flash that I modified only to emit ultraviolet light. And so that turned into a really cool frost orb that was glowing apparently from within, it looked like. But I got this idea where if I can create an interesting water droplet image and have a bunch of droplets along a blade of grass or a leaf or whatever it happens to be, and then take a hypodermic needle filled with invisible ink, and then inject some of that into some of those droplets, or maybe even one of those droplets, depending on how I want it to look, and then light that scene with an ultraviolet flash, it'll look like the light source is coming from one of the droplets and echoing around all of the other ones. So if anybody wants to take that idea and run with it before I get a chance to explore it, by all means, go for it.
That's cool. It's like black light photography. I love it. I love it. Don, you know, you're gonna, all those toys and little gadgets you have over there, you're gonna end up like opening up a rift in space and time or something.
Or at least a podcast.
Or at least, don't get me started on that, my friend. Yeah, both of you. All right, guys, we are at the end of another episode of This Week in Photo. Thanks to both of my guests, Derek Story and Mr. Don Komarechka, for coming on the show. Please visit their sites. Visit TWiP at thisweekinphoto.com. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all the usual suspects. And on YouTube, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to us over there. And with that, it is time to take that lens cap off.